Thank you so much for being here for another Creative Mornings. Before we jump in, I do want to make an announcement and acknowledge that a lot of people in this room lost a friend, and Creative Mornings lost a huge supporter, and Indianapolis as a city lost a great person when our speaker from July last year, Denver Hutt, passed away this past weekend after 3 years of ovarian cancer. So if you feel like you want to join in the conversation, you can find a lot of awesome stories and memories on social media channels with hashtag Team Denver. Also, her family has asked that if you have some stories or memories, whether you were a close friend or you saw her at Creative Mornings or you just watched a video of her talk on Creative Mornings, if you would like to share some memories and thoughts with her family, you can do so at teamdenverforever@gmail.com. They would really appreciate it. And in true Denver fashion, she would never want us to grieve or mourn or be sad this morning. So today we are going to honor her by being together as a community, supporting one another, being together. She loved Creative Mornings and what was happening here. She was a huge support from the start. Even let us have our first Creative Mornings meeting at the Speakeasy when no one knew who we were or what we were doing or anything. So that was great. So in honor of her, let's just have a great morning and support one another as a Creative Mornings community.
Hello. I noticed that I probably should use the mic. I don't like them very much. Here I am. Hi, how are you? Okay, so it's in this moment that makes me really not love to speak in front of a bunch of people, because I'm looking out and there's all this energy that comes at me, and it's like a really harsh wind, and it blows all of my thoughts right out of my head, and I can't remember anything I was supposed to say. So welcome and good morning. I'm not a morning person, but I am today. Yes. Okay. So I'm having that moment again. Hold on, everybody. Deep breath with me. Let's let it go. All right. I'm a dancer. I'm a choreographer. I'm a director. I work in this space. I'm the director of Modus Dance, and the opera has been so awesome to us to have us allow this to be our home and where we work now. We are one of just a few groups that are now in residence here along with the opera, and it's been amazing to have this be our home. We're so grateful. Thank you, Kevin. That's the general director of the opera over there. Thank you. Woo! So does anyone see the irony in the fact that I have devoted my career to a non-verbal art form, and yet I'm here speaking about language? I do. I think I'm supposed to click. Hold on. How does this work? Do I go forward? What do I do? Like that. Ooh! So I looked up language, and I found pretty much what you would expect. A lot of stuff about words. The method of human communication, either spoken or written, consisting of the use of words. So bored. It doesn't get interesting until you get down with tongue and slang and maybe jargon. Or maybe at the very bottom when you get into profanity that I slid in there. which isn't particularly interesting if you think about it. Just throwing in a word to make something more intense isn't particularly interesting, but I find profanity interesting in that it is a restriction that we've put on ourselves and our culture, and I am interested in restriction and what it does for the creative process. So I could have gone in that direction, but I didn't, because I'm not an expert in profanity. In fact, I've been told that I don't sound right when I use it. I'm like, maybe, no. So I went with the 2B down there, the vocabulary and phraseology belonging to an art or a department of knowledge that I can sink my teeth into. A friend of mine, when she heard that I would be doing this, let me know about her middle child who was nonverbal until he was about 3 years old. They hadn't figured out that he had chronic ear infections most of his life, and he couldn't hear. And they didn't figure it out until a little later. And part of his therapy to catch him up, they said, get him into music classes. And so they did. And music was his first language. So I could say that dance is my language, and it is, but I'm not going to totally go there just yet. I'm going to go with Ursula, the sea witch from The Little Mermaid, when she said, don't underestimate the importance of body language. Ha! So I looked up body language, and it is pretty interesting how the definition has changed over the last 100 years. In the early 1900s, they said it was nonverbal, usually unconscious communication through the use of gestures and facial expressions. In the 90s, early 2000s, it changes and starts to say conscious or subconscious bodily gestures, postures, etc. And closer to today, it says, the gestures, postures, and facial expressions by which a person manifests various physical, mental, or emotional states and communicates non-verbally with others. So why did it change so dramatically from defining it as an unconscious thing completely to something that we're maybe more aware of, that we're giving it a little more validity now, this movement? So lots of stuff happened. The Industrial Revolution happened, the rise of a middle class. These people had more disposable income, more free time. There was a new interest in health and physical fitness. It was the decline of the Victorian era. We got rid of the corsets. Women started to wear pants. We started to vote. We started to seek out education, employment. More classes at university took into consideration women's interests. And the wars, world wars that happened, involved women directly. We were more a part of society and less jailed by whalebone structures in our corsets and dresses. The sexual revolution definitely brought some attention to our bodies. And then, or while this happened, in the mid to late 1800s, a man in France who was a musician and a teacher invents a theory about the relationship between human movement and feelings. His research leads him to conclude that to each emotion or mental image corresponds a movement or an attempt at it. This idea boosts one of the main ideological components of modern dance at its origins. Feelings and their intensity are the cause of movement and its quality. Feelings and their intensity are the cause of movement and its quality. In other words, the source of the dance, the source of our movement, lies inside the dancer or the person and not outside. In codified gestures, like classical dance would tell you. Classical dance wore corsets, point shoes, little tiny prisons around our bodies. This is the same time that modern dance came about, the same time that we took the corsets off, we took the point shoes off, we got rid of the ballet vocabulary, the pantomime that told the literal story. If you've seen the Nutcracker, you've seen them pantomime the entire battle scene, which just happened before intermission, where Claire is going, the crown, and the mouse, and the sword. That's how they told stories up till now. They pantomimed it out on stage in a real, literal fashion, without words. That's what dance had been. So Isadora Duncan and Ruth St. Denis and Ted Shawn take the corsets off, they take the point shoes off, and they start looking at this feelings and intensity and expression and have that start to become central, and it becomes more natural. And these are the pictures that you see of the women in gauzy dresses that are flowing behind them and ribbons in their hair and children and flowers, and this is the dance that came out of that time. It was called free dance, it was called romanticism, it was called new dance, aesthetic dance, and the next generation of dancers after this, in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, were Martha Graham and Lester Horton and Doris Humphrey, and they took this new form and gave it structure. They implemented and clearly defined recognizable dance systems and training that's still used today. You hear Graham technique, you hear about Martha Graham all the time. Dance Kaleidoscope is a Graham company. That's their basis. So after that generation comes Merce Cunningham, Jose Limon, Paul Taylor. You still hear those names too. They paved the way for abstraction, avant-garde, which brings us to today where we're at this postmodernist dance era where I live, where we have everything again. We have performance art and release techniques and all of the Graham and all of the Limon and all of the Horton, and we have influences from India or China or wherever you've been in your life, plus what's inside the dancer or what's inside you as a choreographer. And so everything is available. And so that's where I come in and say, let's give it some structure. Let's restrict it. And that's where my creative process goes. But back to body language, how far away are we with just a gesture to a dance? Really, we're not far at all. That's the beginning of every movement, is what's inside. So what do? I put some rhythm to it. I give some structure to it. I decide which pieces to abstract and which ones to keep literal. Those are all choices that a choreographer would make, because body language, this language of movement, and dance, they're all related, they're all intertwined, they're all right next to each other, they're neighbors. And I would argue that movement is everyone's first language. And people would say, oh, but babies cry, and that's vocal, and then it turns into verbal, and blah, 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 blah. No. Before that, way before that, when you were in your mother's womb, because we all have a mother, even if you don't know her anymore, when you were in her womb, your tiny little muscles twitched and pulled on your tiny little bones and spasmed, and your tiny little foot kicked the wall of her uterus, and you said, I'm here, I'm alive, and she heard you. And that was your first conversation. But we've forgotten that because of inhibitions and insecurities and whatever else. We've forgotten our first language, or many of us have. But so when somebody says, you run like a, or you throw like a, or you dance like a, fill in the blank. Fuck that. Dance anyway. Living room dance parties and singing in the shower should be regular weekly occurrences, if not more frequent than that. The world would be a better place. So I have an experiment that I would like to do if, I'm sure we have time. I flew through that, didn't I? Yeah. I got really excited, got it all out there. Okay, so what I want to do is have you guys give me some gestures. Something that you find that you do commonly, something that you see drives you crazy, whatever, what I'm doing right now. So does anyone have a gesture? Call it out. Yeah.
In Russia, this means you get nothing.
You get nothing?
Yep.
You get nothing. Everybody do it. Everybody hold up your, it's the thumb inside the neck. You get nothing. Okay. So that's our first gesture. Can I have another one? Anyone? You're going to make me do this all by myself? You got one. Claw the air. Like you grab it? Okay. You grabbing? Grab that air. So is this something that you do in your conversations with people? You're like... Okay. All right. So we got, you got nothing. This is very aggressive, people. You got nothing. Claw. All right. That's good. Okay. Couple more. You got one? Okay. Okay. We'll do this. Got this one? Okay, one more. I love it. I love it. Okay, we need both hands for this. Silent drum roll, and it goes up. All right. Okay. All right. So I think. So I'm gonna choreograph this, and you guys are gonna do it with me. I think we should start out. You guys mirror me, okay? So you use the hand that you be my mirror image, okay? So let's claw on this side, and we're gonna bring it in, and then we're gonna roll it up. Boom. You got nothing? Oh my God. Okay. Ready? We haven't done it yet. We're not done. go over it a couple more times. So we start with the claw. We do claw and we bring it in and we're gonna roll it up. Boom. You got nothing. Oh my God. Again, claw in, we roll it up. Huh. You got nothing. Okay. We're all gonna do that, but I'm gonna add in a few really regular ones. So if you're on this side of the room, you're gonna start shaking your head no. And be like, no. And as soon as the person next to you shakes their head no, you shake your head no, and then you can stop. No, 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 and it's gonna go this way. And then you guys, once the no gets to you, you're gonna be like, uh-huh. Yep. And as soon as the person next to you starts, you can stop, and it should flutter back this way. As soon as we get back here, you guys can stop, and then we'll claw, and we'll bring it in, and we'll go up. You got nothing? Boom. And then we're gonna do it to music. Okay? All right, let me find some music for this awesome piece that we have. And I do think that I need to record it. Yeah. So, hold on. And we might want to try like different music. The first piece, it might not be right. We can do questions and answers now. Is that okay? Did I cheat you? No. Would you like to give me this? Does anybody have any questions? I said a little bit about my creative process, but I didn't say very much. So I could, if not, yeah?
Who do you teach? What's your student?
So Modus teaches mostly to adults. We will accommodate very mature, serious 13-year-olds, but nobody younger than that. Typically, we don't see people until they are college-aged. Very occasionally, we'll get kiddos in here, but they're so busy, and there are so many schools for kids that unless they really like modern, and they've found that at an early age, they don't come to us typically. We'll get a few for summer intensive and that kind of thing, but mainly we're adults, and we do all kinds of movement classes and all kinds of dance classes. So we do modern dance for professional level, and then we have a, what do we call it? It's like all-inclusive, back to the basics. So we're not excluding the people who want to use that class to get back from an injury, to get back to the basics for a second, to warm up for something else. But that's basically our beginner class, and it's on Sundays. And then we have 2 more modern classes a week. Then we have belly dance, we have burlesque, we have tap, we have Zumba for everyone, and I'm adding a piloxing class for fitness, and piloxing is, it's dance, boxing, and Pilates all in one class. I think I'm forgetting some other different classes, but basically, if you're a dancer in this city and you have something to give back to the community, we're your place. Yeah?
Can you see these in terms of recitals of your students
Performances, we're first and foremost a performance company.
Okay.
So Modus has 7 core artists who present work, usually in collaboration with one another, and also by using dancers that are outside of that group. So we're a collaborative and a collection of voices. We give each other critical feedback to improve ourselves and one another. So our next performance is actually a fundraiser. It's on April 2nd, and we will do it at the White Rabbit Cabaret. It's a wine tasting. Our BFF, Adam from Bluebeard, does all the courses for us. Republic National gives us the wine, and this year there's a bourbon dessert course. You might want to save up your money and come. Just saying. Yes? Yeah, so I touched on that just a little bit with my restriction, and I don't know if I made my point there, but so in modern dance where there are no rules, we've taken the rules away, essentially. Everything is available. And when everything is available in a creative process, you're stunned, you're overwhelmed with anything that is possible, because everything's possible. So I find that restriction and structure are my friends. So whether that's finding and researching a piece of inspiration that's speaking to you. So for pairings, each choreographer has a course. So we get our inspiration from the wine. We just had our tasting a couple of weeks ago, and I got the Malbec. And in comparison with the other red wine that's in the group, it was softer and more relaxed, easier to drink, more feminine. So all of those words are informing my choreography, my choice in music, my choice in a dancer, because ultimately that dancer with his or her facility and his or her own feelings, it will come from internal to external along with my guidance and inspiration. So my movements, I originally had wanted it to be a solo, very feminine, have a little bit of sensuality to it. And then when Adam added the food in, his course for my wine was a pot pie. Like a destructured, or yeah, I forget the fancy words they use, but it was a pot pie. And he's like, it's the flavors of a pot pie, but it's going to be so awesome, it's going to be great. And I'm like, no, I don't doubt that at all. It just changes everything for me. So this is a comfort food. So I had to change it up completely. So I found a dancer whose husband is comfortable on stage and is also an actor. So I've asked him to join her on the stage, and I'm establishing this relationship that to me feels like a lifetime of ease and comfort in this relationship, and that they go on stage and you feel that ease and you feel that comfort between them, so much so that she can go away from him and do this whole piece and keep coming back. So there's this thing happening with comfort, but also with her departing to do her own thing and being independent. So that's where I'm going. You'll have to come to pairings to see it. Brittany? Oh, somebody else? Oh, hi. Everyday gestures? Yeah, yes and no. It depends on the piece, probably. I had, when my firstborn was very young, no became a real thing. And I incorporated this into a piece. I can't even do it anymore. Oh my God. But it started slow and then it got really fast. So yeah, that became a part of a piece. I do sometimes find myself analyzing movement a little bit because that was such a piece of my training, and because I'm critiquing movement so much that I might watch somebody walk and find that interesting, or I know that I could, if someone was getting pigeonholed into certain roles, if they're an actor or something like that, or you feel like your posture or something is holding you back, I feel like I could help with that. Do you know what I mean? Just from my training and the analyzing that I did. I spent a whole semester in London at the Laban Center, and Laban is the only movement notation that is around. So if you think about, so music has its own language. Literally, they can write it on a piece of paper, and another musician can come along and play that. Dance doesn't have it. I mean, how can you write this down? Every choreographer comes up with a system of his or her own, and we have this little shorthand that we can only read ourselves. If I gave them my notes to someone else, they'd be like, I don't know what, no. So Laban is incredibly complex. There's several lines having to do with all the little pieces of your body that you can move, all the different aesthetics that can go on top of that, whether it's a slash or a spoke. There's so many different words to describe movement, and I studied that for a little while. So yes and no is the answer to that question. I'll analyze it. I don't always use it, but I can use it as a source of inspiration for sure. Yeah?
Have you ever noticed that we have gestional accents? Is it people in a region sound the same, people in a region move the same?
I would say we do have movement accents. I'm not from here. And I think that has a lot to do with how we feel about people from different places. I think I'm from the Boston area, and people who visit the Boston area say, oh, people are so rude. And I don't see it because that's where I grew up. That was my normal. So the abruptness, and it's so funny because it's really not how I am at all. I think Bostonians tend to be really straightforward, and their body language is pretty straightforward. And my aesthetic as a mover is to twist everything. I twist everything. I never have straight shoulders, straight feet, and are like straight on. But I think that has a lot to do with how we see one another. Does that answer your question? Kinda. I mean, if you think about the way a Southern woman, like Southern belle type person, would speak and stand, as opposed to a Bostonian, it's very different. It is.
No, I imagine it would. I mean, that was the question, especially when he was asking about just looking for things in the emergence.
Yeah.
That's what my mind was like, when you start seeing actually pay attention.
It's a good question. I don't think it's across the board. I don't think you can say, oh, all East Coasters do this or all Southern people do that.
Videos online, and I like to dance at dance parties, but I can't dance at that level. Not the level
You
like
can, you just choose not to.
I teach art, and often I hear people say, I can't draw, I'm not an artist. But what you're lacking is training and skill,
Yes, yes.
not talent. So
Yes.
I'm on board with that.
Uh-huh.
But it's interesting to see dance, and when you're talking about notation, not understanding what they're doing, like how they do it. Like I've seen people talk about how there are people who can't access muscles in their body because they don't know how to do that muscle.
Yes.
But it's in your body. You should be able to do it. Like the diaphragm lunges for seeing people who don't know how to access that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. And I wonder if we access that from an internal point, that we could access it more easily. That I wonder if the walls we've put up that make us not able to access those muscles are actual walls, or if they're like emotional walls.
Let's find out.
Let's do it. It's a new class. Does anybody else? Oh.
So when you said it, like, you're in the modern era, and so you found that, you kind of found yourself, like, kind of falling into rules or restrictions and stuff like that. Do you find that you were falling into that in a short amount of time, or is it something that's just forever?
So the question is,
So you mentioned dance in the modern era, which is where you guys at.
yeah, we're postmodern.
Yeah, and, sorry,
That's okay. I didn't put it on the outline.
you kind of mentioned that you enjoy the rules and restrictions, or not rules, but,
That I put my own structure and restriction upon my creative process, yes.
And so when you found that you were interested in that, did you all that
How long did it take me to get there?
to realize that it was a short amount of time, or was it
It was a long time. I started in classical dance. I was in love with ballet. My non-Modus email address is xbunhead, because I was a bunhead. I lived in a bun. It was my life. I didn't have much of a life outside of ballet. That's where I lived. My feet were disgusting. I was very skinny. And it wasn't until my own body put up its own walls and said, no, this isn't really going to work for you, that I had to figure out how to express myself differently. And I also think that it was overly restricting, that I was so narrow-minded and so focused on this one aspect of dance. I wasn't seeing the whole picture, and until I was introduced to other things, I didn't find it. So I found modern dance really in college. I met Larry White, who was at Butler, and he cast me in his piece sophomore year, and I didn't want to do it. I wanted to be in point shoes. I didn't want to take my shoes off. I resisted it a lot. But he had inspirations. He would travel. He was a professor with money. He would travel to Spain and come back and be all inspired and do this piece about the Spanish villa and all this stuff. And it was so cool. And I learned really how to get that kind of inspiration, how to pick it apart. And he held the first rehearsal, and this person, I was so ballet minded, I didn't know how to improv, and he was like, take your shoes off and improv to this music. Thought I was gonna die. I didn't know what to do, but I did it. I forced myself to do it. I got through it, and I was then part of his piece. I wasn't a pawn anymore. I didn't have to look like the person before me or the person after me or the person next to me. I didn't have to conform anymore. This piece was mine too, and I liked it. And that's what brought me over. Yeah.
So you had to do it over again, to cut ballet out of your life?
Sooner. I would not have cut it, no, because I learned a lot from it. I definitely learned a lot of life lessons. I learned what not to do a lot through ballet. I learned discipline, and it is definitely the basis for almost all dance techniques. So if you have ballet in your corner as part of your foundation, you have the ability to transform and go everywhere else from there. So yeah, it develops and strengthens a dancer, and I recommend it in the beginning. I don't recommend becoming so narrow-minded about the rest of what's available that you don't see the rest. But I wouldn't do it over in a different way. I would do it again the same way I did. Yeah?
How would you say your classical ballet training influences your work now? Do you think you feel like you embrace the structure and the restrictions from ballet, or do you kind of buck those to create your own or move in and out?
I think I pick and choose what I want to keep from that. So, and I pick and choose when to depart from it. So I really like pointy feet, for sure. I don't like floppy, fishy feet. No, not into that. But if I choose to buck that, then a nice flexed foot, so we can rebel against the ballet pointed foot and the ballet straightened knee by doing that, but I don't necessarily throw it all away. I think I choose specifically to do the opposite rather than, just relaxing it. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? One more?
So
Yes and no. So I'm not sure. So the question was, does it translate into me being a mom? I do have 2 kids, 11 and 7. And does my dance training translate into parenting at all? Yeah? Is that the question? I haven't impressed upon them, stand up straight or any of that. But they have been to my performances. They have been to the studio a lot. And my daughter did want to take lessons, so I took her to another school to take lessons. And my son had to come because there was nobody at home. So he came and he looked in the studio and said, I can do that. And so I would, do you want to try? Yes, I do. So he took classes for a couple of years and loves performing. Doesn't really like the training part so much. My little girl likes the training. Doesn't really like to perform so much. I'm not sure. We have dance parties all the time and they just erupt in the kitchen. That happens all the time. Now there are times where I'm like, stop, the claw. Just stop. But yeah, there is a circle in our house, and it's like, the kitchen, dining room, living room circle. I recommend all houses have a circle. None of them should be like T-shaped, L-shaped. No. We need circles so that we can run around and dance like that. So yes, that happens in our house on a regular basis. If it doesn't happen, someone's sick. Is that a good place to end? Thanks, everybody.